I have an incense going. I have a candle going. I got my contacts in. I'm really feeling good about this video. Woo! I'm so excited. Hello, sinners, and hail Sappho. I'm your host, Narcisse DeVille, and welcome to Femme Makeup Chats. Oh my god. This video is, like all my other videos, gonna be all over the place. I originally didn't know what I wanted to do this video on, and then last minute, an idea came to me and spoke to me from the ether. I am certainly not someone who is going to sit here and say, like, something is or isn't in definite terms real or not real. I'm not going to sit here and say that because I have my own experiences. I have my own beliefs, but I also just have like my own things that I know. And, you know, I've talked about it in probably, I don't know, half a dozen videos at this, not literally, but I've talked about it in quite a few videos at this point. Like, I am a much happier person now than I was even a year ago. I would say I am happier now than I was even a year ago. But I would also say, and I think it's important to note, that that is a choice that I made. You know, it's something that I worked on. It is something that I, actively decided was something I wanted to do. And I think often we have this idea, whether it's like magic or prayers or manifesting or whatever you want to call it, there's this idea that if you just do that by itself, that is enough, that is everything that you need to do. And I feel personally that it has to include work on the part of, yourself, of what you're trying to do, right? So let's say you're trying to be, a more happy person, a more positive person. You're trying to, be kinder to yourself. You're trying to work on just little things like that. I mean, let's be honest, that's not a little thing. That's a very, very big thing and a very, very impressive thing. Like, I don't think we should sell that short. It's one thing to say, I'm a firm believer. Affirmations, I think, are great. I think they make me feel good. They make me happy. Having affirmations that I say and I do make me feel good. They make me feel happy. They make me feel like, okay, that is a positive thing, and so I'm a big believer in that. I'm a big believer in visualization. I've maybe mentioned that before. I'm not sure. I've used it many, many times. I think it has had a great deal of positive effects on my life, visualization, personally. All that being said, you as an individual do still have to take some actions yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it is all well and good to... Where the hell is my powder? It is all well and good to visualize, what you look like at a certain point in your life. If you're visualizing yourself as a more positive person, if you're visualizing yourself as a more happy person, if you're visualizing yourself, writing a book or creating this thing or that thing, that is all well and good. And that is actually great. But that is only step one. And I don't think a lot of people oftentimes want to discuss that is only step one. I think it feels as though, to me... Oh, God, here it is. I don't know how it got on the... I just knocked shit over and I don't even realize. It feels to me that oftentimes people want to discuss, the end result more than they want to discuss the process or, how you get there. And that isn't necessarily the fault of any one person. I think it's just something that we have habit of doing as humans, maybe. But I will say, from a standpoint of, if you want to talk about like selling a product, which unfortunately, just like any other community, spiritualist or not, there is, or spiritual community or not, there is those people who just want to sell you something, and you have to know that. But I think there is something to be said about like, okay, I think conversations need to be had more often about the actual amount of work that it takes to do what you want. Because I can Google right now about 1,000 videos of like how to manifest $10,000 in a month. That is something that you can search up on YouTube and find hundreds of videos with all different kinds of practices and steps and approaches and things you should do and things you must not do and all of that. It's all well and good to tell people, anything is possible. You can make things happen. And yeah, you can. You can make great things happen. But when you're in I feel like certain things aren't taken into account. Let's say mental health is almost never taken into account in these conversations. I can attest to that. So many people, including myself, have either had times or actively have times where their brain is just in fear mode. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There is no rhyme or reason to why you are scared of everything all the time, always, and your mind is just a dark, dank place. But that's what it is. And so you now have to deal with that. And I believe, in my experience, that is not taken into consideration. It's always, well, you have to control your thoughts. You have to, you have to be the boss of your thoughts, not the other way around. And that's so great in theory. But as anyone who has ever experienced any kind of anxiety can tell you, when you're in the midst of anxiety, when you're in the midst of having an anxiety attack, no amount of logic is going to get you out of it. I can say to myself in the middle of anxiety, I am fine, I am safe, nothing is wrong, there is no reason for this. But that's not how this works, I think most people who have anxiety can agree, you can't logic your way out of an anxiety attack. That would be fabulous if you could. And, maybe we can have a conversation about, well, maybe when you're not anxious is the best time to, manifest not having anxiety attacks in the first place. And is that even something that's possible? I don't want to get down that rabbit hole because I feel like no good thing leads there. It starts to very much become like a, you can pray away any illness. And I feel like that's a very, very, very dangerous rabbit hole to go down. So I'm not about to go down that rabbit hole. That is not at all what I'm saying. And also, here's something that I hear every so often that drives me up the wall. A lot of times when people talk about like karma and talk about like, oh, maybe the reason you're going through this is a karmic cycle, and it may not have even been your karma that you had in a past life. It may be your parents' karma. I'm like, okay, so now you're telling me that along with everything else, I have to pay for shit that I didn't even do? Because of the unfortunate incident of who I was born to? Are you kidding me? No, ma'am. I don't want to subscribe to any theory that says I can have to pay the consequences for shit other people in my family did. I don't like the idea that somehow you can be held responsible, karmically speaking, for shit. I don't want to be held responsible for the shit my parents did or didn't do. I think so many of us want so badly to be anywhere else than where we're at. I think so many of us want so badly for the world to be better than it is and to experience a world that is better than it is, and to experience a world that is, where you can make things possible, where you can make great things happen. And I'm not saying that you can't. Please don't misunderstand me. But I think in that desire and in that sometimes desperation that you come to when things have not been working out for a very long time and things have not been good for a very long time, I know because I've been there, I think you can let yourself lose some your own best judgment. You know what I mean? Because I know for me, when I first discovered, manifesting in the community back in the 2020s, I think it was 2019, I was already in such a terrible headspace. I was already, peak anxiety. I was already bad mental health space, and it only got worse and worse as time went on. And I feel like for me, the, trying to get into manifesting, trying to get into all of these things kind of just made things worse in the beginning and kind of made my mental health worse in the beginning. And it really scared the shit out of me. And I just feel like nobody wants to talk about that. And maybe, we can maybe that's supposed to be normal. Maybe, you're growing and growth is scary and whatever. We can have that conversation too. But I just feel like so often, when you're already in a bad mental health space, hearing someone say, well, any thought you think attracts that thing to you, good or bad, is not helpful. It's not helpful. And quite frankly, it's not doing the good you think it is. And I don't know, maybe scaring people shitless is how you want to do, your spirituality. I personally don't. I much more prefer, positive spirituality. I much more prefer talking about affirmations. I much more prefer talking about visualization. I much more prefer talking about the work that I personally have done and how it's changed my life. And, whether or not you are, manifesting a business, whether or not you're manifesting money or a new car or a new house or whatever it is, I think at the end of the day, the best thing you can do for yourself and the most powerful thing you can do for yourself, away from everything else, is find a way to, if not using the term manifesting, create joy for yourself where you are. People always talk about gratitude is so important because it helps attract bigger and better things. That's great. But to me, gratitude is important because it reminds me of where I'm at and where I came from. There is something so visceral about looking at your surroundings, taking a second, looking at your surroundings and saying, holy shit, this is different from what I thought it would. And if you're in a situation where it's not the greatest right now, this video is not for you. But if you're in a situation where it's not the worst necessarily, or even if things are difficult, there are still things to be grateful for. For instance, for me, yes, I don't have hundreds of thousands of subscribers at the moment like I'd like to. But I also don't have I'm not working off a phone camera like I used to. I have really great lights, which I never had before and which I really wanted. I have all of these things that I can be grateful for, and even things that aren't even necessarily tangible or material. I don't know if I've ever said this in a video. I might have. I feel like I would have. But I am every single day, without fail, I am grateful to be a lesbian. I truly am. Every single day, I am grateful for it. Every single day, I am reminded of how, to me, blessed I am for that. It's not a material thing. It is not something that you can make money off of it, but it's not necessarily something that is inherently monetizable. It's not necessarily something that is inherently something you can do a lot with. But it means the world to me, and it is something that I am grateful for. I'm grateful for my friends and the people in my corner who support me and who enjoy my videos and who enjoy what I do. I'm grateful to the 600 people who are subscribed to my channel, because that's a huge deal. I don't know 600 people. I couldn't fit 600 people into a room. If you put them in an auditorium, that's a pretty big auditorium. You know, it feels like not a huge accomplishment to celebrate, but it is, and I think it should be celebrated. I have spent so many years not appreciating the little accomplishments. I have spent so many years not giving myself credit for things that I have done. I wrote in the last 3 months 21,000 words. It's not a ton, but you know what? It's better than nothing. That's 21,000 words that did not exist 3 months ago. I wrote almost 5,000 just last night. That's a huge thing. And if I don't write another 5,000 tonight, well, I did it last night. And it's whatever I do write or don't write, it's more words than I had, the day before, because ultimately it all compiles up. I've made so many videos, some of which I have had to private because they're not conversations that I want to have anymore. They are not things that I want on my channel anymore. But I'm still proud of the time and effort that I put into them. And, so many thousands of word of fanfic and so many, hundreds of thousands of likes and comments and love that I got on that fanfic that I am still grateful for every single day. And I miss it because I miss, that I'm not going to lie, I do miss that attention, and that is part of it. But I miss the camaraderie too. I miss the community of people when I was writing that, who all of us were on this same page. All of us knew what we liked and knew what we enjoyed, and we all enjoyed it together. And there was like this common unspoken language maybe. And I do have that in the lesbian community, let me be clear. But it's not quite the same, because when I write something, it's not the same because it's my own original work. So, you gotta work people into that. But the point is, it's a community that I've worked for, and it's a community that I take very, very seriously, and I'm very, very grateful for. And that is ultimately what all of this is about. And I just think that rather than always focusing on, all the affirmations like, this is going to be the year you make $1 million. This is going to be the year you fall in love and get married. This is going to be the year you take that grand vacation. This is going to be the year you get a new car. This is going to be the year you get a new house. All of that's well and good. And maybe this is the year for that. But maybe this is the year where you stopped and said, you know what? I'm going to celebrate every step on the way to the top. I'm going to celebrate and congratulate and appreciate everything that gets me there. Whether it's a pitfall, whether it's whatever it is, I'm going to appreciate it. And that's easier said than done. I will say that. I will admit that. It's taken me a very, very long time to even get to this point. And I know there are going to be stumbling days. I know there are going to be days when it's harder than others. But I also know that celebrating any accomplishment is much better than trying to only celebrate the biggest accomplishments. Because if you only celebrate the biggest accomplishments, it's never going to feel big enough. You know what I mean? There's always going to be something else on the list. I've written over the last 20 years, I would say maybe 13 full novels, maybe give or take 10 to 13, let's say. And a lot of them were kind of like novellas. They weren't actually as long as like a full length novel, whatever you want to call that, whatever you want to classify that as, your word count, you know. But it's something, and I've written them, and those were stories that didn't exist before that. I'm trying to learn to just appreciate everything as it comes. If something works out the way I expect it to or the way I'd like it to, great. If it doesn't, well, you still learned something from that. You still experienced it. And that's not bad either. I've had a lot of, I guess you could call them near misses with romantic relationships. But I'm at the point where I'm just grateful for the experience. I'm just grateful for where I'm at and what I have learned about myself along the way. And I know that my person is coming. I know that my time to shine and, you know, all of these things that I have worked on and believed in for so many years, I know that's coming. I don't know when. I don't know where. I don't necessarily know how. But that's not really for me to know. I guess the long and short of this, obviously, I've gone off the track as I do in these videos. But I will say I'm happy where I am. I am working on better. I am believing in better. I am being positive, and that takes a lot of work. And we don't talk often enough about how much work it takes and the journey to get there. And I think that should be more of a conversation that's had in these communities rather than like manifesting $10,000 in a month. Let's have a conversation about how to get to the point where you can even believe in yourself enough that something like that could be even theoretically possible. Because I do feel as though there's a base level of work just to get yourself to the point where that even remotely seems feasible. Not even in the sense of like, you know, whether or not you believe, you know, miracles can happen, whatever. It's a sense of you have to be at a point where you are comfortable whatever the result is. And that's what I think you have to get to mentally. And if you're someone who is needing $10,000 in a month, you are probably not in a secure enough position where you can comfortably not think about the result. Because it's like, if you do manifest it in that time, or you do stumble upon it or pray for it or whatever, and it happens, of course you're going to be overjoyed. But if it doesn't happen, well, is that going to make you doubtful? Is that going to make you second guess this? Is that going to make you have a breakdown because you really, really fucking need that money? I just feel like it isn't talked about enough. You need a base level of security and a base level of like mental health security in order to put yourself in this position, in order to put yourself out there and, you know, create these possibilities. This idea that you can do it from anywhere and that you can live in the shittiest shithole apartment and still do this, you know, with like the ceiling falling on you. I think you need to have, you know, if it's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, some of the base needs of having a roof over your head, not having to be afraid that it's going to be taken away every 10 seconds, having adequate food, having adequate water, having adequate access to showers and clothes and all those things. Those are the base level things that you absolutely, to me, have to have before any conversation like this can even start. Because you have to be in a position where it's not gonna make or break you. There is a certain base level of security that we as human beings require to even remotely consider dreaming a possibility or hope a possibility. And if anything that you take away from this, I would love to take away the idea that all of the spiritualist girlies, all the witch girlies, all the manifesting people all of those who believe in this and who, want to make their world a better place, I hope that you also want to make all of the world a better place. I hope that's something you can manifest. And that, if you want to actually share this information the way you claim to, I just hope that you understand and appreciate that there is a certain level of security and safety that is needed in order for people to do these things. And there is a lot of privilege in these things. And I feel like these conversations are the ones that aren't being had. Because I think there is this idea that this is the great equalizer and anybody can do this from any position in their world and any position in their life. And it's not even just a feeling, it's something people say. But I think it neglects a lot of realities. And I think it neglects those realities because they're inconvenient to selling a book. I think it neglects those realities because they're inconvenient to making a point. They're inconvenient to getting people to follow your Instagram. They're inconvenient to paying for speaking gigs. They're inconvenient for all of these things. And it's not that I necessarily think you're a bad person for making money off of a speaking engagement or a YouTube video or anything like that. I just feel like we need to be more realistic about who can and cannot do these things and who does or does not have the privilege to do these things. Because speaking as someone who started this in a very, very low place in my life, yes, I am now in a completely different place and I am not in the same place that I was. But was I in the headspace at that time to do this?
Hi there, Editing Sissa here. So I just want to say something really fast that I don't think I quite got through in this video, which is just that, I do think there's a conversation to be had about whether or not, all of these things that I went through, all of these things and like the negative mental health and, I don't want to say fixing that, but like working on my mental health, bettering myself. One can have a conversation that maybe that is the process you have to go through in order to get to the point where you can manifest things and make things better. I guess what I'm just trying to say is like, this is what you should know going in of like what this is going to be like. And I don't think you can really know how you personally are going to react to this until you're in that situation. So I'm just kind of giving the information of like, this is my experience. This is what I went through. Because I do feel like there are some people who want to say like, look, it is hard work bettering yourself. It is hard work trying to, undo a lot of the crap that you are taught from a young age, become the sort of person who can manifest things and who can be in the headspace where you believe in things and it's not going to destroy you if this doesn't happen. Or it doesn't happen immediately, or it doesn't happen exactly like you think it will, because obviously, the whole point is things do get better, things do happen the way they're meant to, but they do happen for you. But my point with all of this is I just feel like not enough people talk about the extent of the work that it takes. And for me, when I was recording this and I was thinking about where I was at that time in my life, I did kind of feel like I was not in the actual headspace to start this. And I don't want anyone who is already in a bad mental health space, it can make it worse. And so I did have to step back and I did have to step away for a few years and, work on my base level mental health. So, I just want to say all of that and say, maybe for you, that won't be the case. Maybe for you, it's going to be completely different. I don't know. But working on yourself and, working on your mental health, working on your, whatever it takes to manifest and to make these things happen, you really just have to know that it can be very, very difficult. It can be very, very hard, especially, just anything that has to do with working on yourself. So I just feel like you should know that going in, I guess is what I'm saying. I know this was like really, really rambly.
No, because I had to stop. And do I recommend it to people who are in a similar headspace to the one I was in at that time? No. Because no matter where I am now, if you are of the belief that everything great that's meant to come to you is always going to find you no matter what, then it shouldn't matter whether or not you manifest it or visualize it or anything else. It should just come to you no matter what. But that doesn't sell books, that doesn't sell talks, that doesn't get people interested online. And I get that. I can respect that. I feel like I've said the majority of what I want to say there. I feel like I've gotten to that point. Ultimately, you do you. Do what makes you happy. But I also think if you're in a position where you can celebrate the little things, you can celebrate things that give you joy, you can celebrate things that make you happy and grateful and all of these things, I think that's going to be better than anything. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below, tell me something you're grateful for, tell me something you're excited for, tell me something that makes you happy. Tell me some creative project that you've been working on that, you're proud of yourself for. I would love, love, love to hear that. I'd love to hear positive stories. And until next time, stay devilish.